If you love the West Tigers as much as we do, and that's an awful lot, you're welcome to come and join us in our discussions on the West Tigers podcast forum. Our forum is the #1 forum for West Tigers fans to talk everything West Tigers. westtigerspodcast.com.au/forum. We hope to see you there soon.
Out of Luai, across field, out the back, Galvin! Brilliant to Staines!
A touch of magic.
Now back towards the posts, Luai, right side, Buller with it, right up to the line, safe far, here he is! Taruba! Oh! Sania Taruba! 3 from the line, Coruscant. Out for Luai, the kick, he waited very late. Chases outside, Dewey got it back, play on the call, then it's for Staines, and he gets straight through the tackle. Coruscant, Luai, last tackle, left foot kick, oh, Fainu caught the check and still got there. The Tigers have got another one. The Tigers are playing some magnificent footy, some confident rugby league. Dragons chance, Flanagan, what a ball, what a pass, 3-man overlap, and the Dragons go over, or do they?
No!
Sewer lost the ball, it's play on, and the Tigers are home! Oh, that is such a blow for the Dragons! Sewer loses the ball over the line, Buller runs 105 metres! The Tigers are shifting around to the left. Luai's with the ball. They're going to run it. Here's Galvin. Now Buller. That's their big three. Out to Dewey. Kick through. Staines to Dewey. Picks it up. Bango the Tigers. They moved late. Their big guns all got involved. And the result is a try. Tigers 34. The Dragons 28.
West Tigers podcast 398, winning podcast, joined by Gary and Nick on a Sunday night. A bit of a makeshift lineup tonight, Gary. No Joel, no Steve, and no Declan after a big win.
Yeah, Declan doesn't come on after wins. We all know that. I don't know what Joel's doing, but I think Steve's gone out on a date with Danny Weidler. So I think they're getting to know each other tonight.
It's all happening, Nick. We will mention that. Off the top, Danny Weidler having a crack at the West Tigers podcast on his Sunday morning column on whatever paper he writes for. Obviously, massive weekend for the West Tigers, a 34-28 victory over the Dragons. Nick, let's go your one word, and then I'll get through the forums list of one word.
I didn't actually put a one word together, but
do the forum ones first. I'll do the forum ones first. Let's go with Dirty Reds, Gary. He put about 11 O's, 7 F's, and 3 T's, which I think is some sort of modern day sort of come on. I think that is
Okay, that makes sense.
Tigers man went with determination in terms of keeping them out at the end. Jedi Tiger just said Naden, and then said, I don't want to see him at centre again. Mike said scrappy, and on his Richo meter, he had average. Mac Tiger went with toughness. He said the Dragons are well coached and play fast football. We overcame them thanks to the leadership of Luai. Tiger Town SFS had Batman, referring to Luai. Not many try assists, but the accountability he demands is the difference. Here, Tiger Town SFS. Teddy S went with a movie from the 60s. It's a shame we don't have Joel and Steve on, boys, because they would be able to tell us about this movie. The Great Escape. It was a great movie, apparently, in the 60s. I might have to catch that up during the week on YouTube. I'll log on and see if I can find it. Lorenzo went with relief. I mean, that could be mine every single week that we win. He said the Dragons were the better side in the second half. In years gone by, we would have lost that game, and that's critical in terms of top 8 at the end of the season. CQ Tiger just went with wins. This far into the season, we've got more wins than losses. It's been a long time since that happened. Snake, he's my favourite poster, Snake.
Yeah, you're very much alike, the two of you.
Well, Steve accused me of being Snake, but I'm not Snake on the forum, but I do want to meet Snake because I like the way he goes about thinking about the game. He just went with shock. He said, I'm shocked this team's won 5 games. Tiger Symmetry, he had turnaround, the infamous 12-point turnaround. We will talk about that. And he said, Buller is the difference between winning and losing. Barra, he went with 25. In 25, we're built different. Nat Max 78 went with 4 points in 6 days. Both tough games. Would have been 0 last year. I think that's a good one. And Rach09 went with Luai. Leadership is exactly what this club needed. Nick, are you ready with your one word?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Yeah, I actually think my one word is probably fairly suitable for this round. My one word is magic, because I think it's magical that Jaden Seward dropped that ball over the line. I don't know whether Jareem Buller was putting some type of a spell on him when he was in motion diving over the line, but just the way that fell out of his hands was incredible. And one of the forum people you just mentioned, Eddie, mentioned that. I think you said we're going to chat about that, but that was a massive turning point in that game.
Well, they'll be replaying that, Gary, in 50 years because I've seen 1 or 2 of them. If you watch those, Andrew Voss shows that he does clip ups of howlers, but I've never seen a howler like that and the opposition run it back for a 105-metre try.
Yeah, was it Richardson back in the late 90s who, for Cronulla, ran...
Yeah, there was one earlier. There was one in the
then...
80s at Belmore, which is when the guy dived in the air with no one around him.
It was a bad one too. Last night's was particularly bad because Buller was right there to pick it up. I loved it. He just hit the ball with his own knee and came loose. And the only thing I was worried about was that maybe he landed on the ball, but he couldn't even manage to land on the ball and ground it. So
you had flashbacks of George Burgess, did you?
Yeah, there was a little bit. I thought they'd bring it back and take it away from us, but it was great to see Buller, who some people, Eddie, think's quite slow, actually race away and score.
What's your word, Gary?
My word, I'm going to go with Luai. Same as Rachy's leadership is invaluable for our side. The off-field stuff that he brings to our club is invaluable. But I thought last night, for the first time, we saw what his real potential on the football field for us. I thought he played as a halfback last night. I think he's starting to take ownership of the team in that role. And I really liked last night, and we'll probably talk about it a little bit more as we talk about the game, how he was digging into the line last night and creating space for his outside players. Every single try we scored outside the Buller one, Luai had a hand in and was creating that extra space out wide. So very, very impressive game from him last night, and I can see him really starting to develop into that halfback role that we're kind of been waiting for the first 8 weeks of the competition.
We will break it down into sort of attack and defence and some of the key talking points and individual performances. But Nick, my word, I just went with God because, I have this theory. I'm not a religious man, but I do think God watches a lot of football over the years and has been responsible for a lot. I'm sorry for the religious people, but a lot of bad things that have happened in West Tigers. And I think finally, he's either asleep or he's just decided to give us a break this year because I know you're laughing, but I'm serious. The last 6 days, the things that have gone our way always go against us. And it's just like that play last night was unbelievable. And even some of the things last week with the golden point were just, maybe it's just time for us to have a little bit of luck.
The tide's always got to turn, doesn't it? Like we have been getting the rub of the green a little bit with a little bit of luck and maybe a call going our way, but for so long it's gone the other way, like you said. Whether that's a religious thing, whether that's God's doing, I don't know if God's asleep. I don't know if God's having a snooze on at Magic Round, but
he watches a lot of football, Nick. He has the last 20 years.
Well, apparently he does, yeah. Apparently he does watch a lot of footy. So speaking of God, Gary.
Thanks for that introduction, Nick. For me, it's just the law of probabilities. We've had that much bad luck for forever. At some point, some of it's had to have turned. my hope is we just don't get it all back in a 3 week span, and then we're back to the bad luck again. So it has been nice to see a few things and the bounce of the ball kind of go our way for once. And really, you look at that Buller try. If you knew something like that was going to happen in that game, you would have predicted it would have went against us. So it was really nice to see something like that usually happens to us go the other way.
Yeah, if you predicted one other team to do it, though, it was probably the Dragons, Gary.
It,
I
it
saw
would have
some of
been
their fans commenting. They said
100%. It
that
would have been the Dragons.
peak Dragons. So the stats are amazing, Nick. I mean, you look across the key metrics and they're very, very even, except one. So possession was 50-50. Both teams completed pretty good, about 75%. Run meters, Dragons had about 100 more. Post contact, the same. Offloads the same. Errors about 12 alls, bit of rain, tough conditions at times. Penalties 4 all. But line breaks, Dragons 12-2, and tackle breaks, which is, same sort of thing. West Tigers missed 42 tackles. Dragon missed 17. One, that's incredible to win with those numbers. And two, is that a bad sign, a good sign, or somewhere in between?
The thing that I noticed, Eddie, during the game was our right side defence got absolutely slaughtered. So down Naden's side, Naden, when Jack Bird was on, he got caught out quite a bit. And Taruba was on the wing, but between the three of those guys and Alex Seyfarth as well, I guess between the four of those guys, I think the Dragons really targeted our right edge defence. Maybe they've seen something that other teams haven't. I don't remember us being caught out that many times down that side recently. But I thought we were quite weak down that side too. So Jack Bird for me didn't really stand out as much as he has. I know he's come on and made a fair bit of impact, over previous rounds, but I actually don't think he was probably all that good. He made a few mistakes and got caught out quite a bit in defence yesterday.
Yeah, I think the Dragons actually planned to target that right-hand side once Toa was out, and they saw that Naden was there, and Seyfarth always has a few sort of issues in defence. But I think it was a targeted plan to go down to that right side, especially when you've got Valentine Holmes sitting out there. It's going to be an area that you're targeting anyway. So I think it really was an area of target. But I'm going to give the West Tigers a mulligan on the defensive issues last night. We didn't defend great across the park last night. I think Terrell May missed 3 or 4 tackles last night, and we're seeing what his tackle stats have been like all season. For me, we played a hard extra Golden Point game 6 days before. We had to get up to Brisbane, get prepared for the game, and go into that game last night. So I think our defence so far this season has been quite good. It was really poor at times last night, but I'll give them the mulligan just based on the fact that it was a tough turnaround from what was a fairly emotional game last weekend. And hopefully we see an improvement in that defence come back next weekend.
I think that's fair, Gary. It was a short turnaround. I was a little bit worried about that turnaround as well. I know the Dragons had a bit of disruption around their halves. Coming to the game, Lachlan Elias was dropped. I thought I can't remember their halfback's name that slotted in, but I thought he did a pretty good job. He looked pretty good on his feet, even in those heavy conditions too.
And a beautiful ball through for that first try.
Yeah, that was a good ball. I'll tell you who I was impressed with from the Dragons side was Valentine Holmes. I thought he really turned the clock back. That try that he scored down the left edge, I think it was our right edge again, that got caught out, where he kind of did like a Benji Marshall dummy on the inside and completely wrong-footed Taruba. I thought that was a really classy play. But yeah, Dragons I thought looked pretty good. Maybe we're a little bit off, but the intent was still there. So as we said last week, Gary, 2 points in the bank, and I'm never going to say no to 2 points.
No, I agree with that. I don't know if I give you the boys the pass or mulligan you guys are giving, because I watched Cronulla, who also played in that Golden Point game, come off 1 day's less rest and defend pretty well against Parramatta. So, I mean, that's what I think the top sides in the competition are capable of doing, of even a short turnaround. But Gary, speaking of that right side defence, is it a structural thing? Because we've sort of seen the last couple of weeks, I don't know if they're sometimes a little bit passive and teams make a lot of meters. You've got Galvin as a third or fourth man in, and you've got Seyfarth and Naden either side. We'll start with Naden. I felt a little bit sorry for him last night. I think his days at centre are probably coming to the to an end. He just looks like laterally he's a fish out of water.
He looked all at sea last night. Um, Even on that try Nick was just talking about, he did probably make the right choice of hitting that inside man that was coming back on the inside. But I would have liked to have seen him try and get to Valentine a little bit quicker and take him low, because I think there was an opportunity there to do that. But yeah, he struggled defensively last night. He did run a really good line for Taruva's try on the wing, but outside of that, I thought he was pretty much non-existent up until when he got injured. So yeah, it's a tough one. I kind of went off him last year with all the mistakes and the all discipline he showed, and I thought his trial form was really good, and I was willing to give him another shot. But yeah, I think he let himself down a little bit last night.
What's the word on Nathan's knee? Did we get an update at the end of the game? I know he came off. I think there was about 30 minutes to go in that second
I didn't
half.
see the specific incident, but the camera did pan a couple of times to show him hobbling early in the second half. I'm not sure if it was a contact injury or an injury to the same knee he injured in the preseason,
It,
but
it was the same knee. It was the knee that was heavily strapped that he was limping on. So
I almost thought Gary he could have been hooked, but I think he was injured. But I'm not sure Benji would have been. I don't want to disrespect Nathan because I don't want anyone to get injured in our team, but it was almost getting to that point where you think we need to make a change here.
yeah, it was. But I thought when Bird came on, he wasn't much better either. He made quite a number of mistakes in that center role. Um, Especially towards the end of the game, a couple of passes he pushed that he probably shouldn't have pushed. So it's actually it's a little bit of a concern for me if Toa's not back next weekend, what we do with that center spot. So before last week, I probably would have said that you put Bird into that role, but I thought he's been fairly disappointing the last few weeks now.
Just Gary, what about Galvin defensively? Because I thought obviously for a teenager coming into first grade who's slightly built, he's done a pretty remarkable job. But a team sort of maybe catching on to the fact that he likes to sort of catch and grab. He's not the sort of half that's going to get in low and try and crunch you back. Has he been a little bit passive and a team's going at him, targeting him?
Yeah, I thought there was a few issues in the Cronulla game as well. One of the tries they scored, I kind of put on Galvin as well. So I don't think last night was one of his better games, and definitely his tackling technique. He needs to learn how to use his shoulder a lot more. The catching and grabbing makes him a little bit of a target. But in saying all that, he pulled off a ripper try saver last week as well. So I just think being a 19-year-old kid, he's going to be a little bit hot and cold, both in attack and defense. So I'd like to say I'll give him time to develop that, but I guess that time to develop that would be for someone else. So hopefully gets it right sooner than later.
Sort of started on the defence, boys, so we'll keep going. And I'm probably getting some of the negative stuff out the way early. Nick Fanua Pole, he's had a great season in the front row, but still has his lapses of concentration. There was one howler late in the game just to allow the Dragons a chance in the last few minutes. Simple one-on-one tackle where their lock rolled over, and Jacob Little just caught him out expertly on the goal line when he was lying on the ground. I think that's something he's going to have to tidy up if he's going to be, close to an elite front rower.
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about Bolle quite a bit in regards to missing tackles. And you're right, that one where I think Hamish Stewart, the lock, went past him, he gave him just a fend and Polo had nothing. He just sort of hit the ground and Stewart went right through him and scored a try. And you could see on the replay when Stewart scored, Samuel Afenu was right there and he turned around and looked at Bolle and he had his hands in the air like, what was that? Like, yeah, I don't know if some of the boys they probably are noticing some of Bolle's misses, but as good as Bolle has been in attack, he has been a little bit soft in some defensive areas. So that's definitely something he needs to tighten up on.
It's sort of a hard one, Gary, because he's obviously been pushed aside trying to tackle someone and you're lying face down. So it's not like you can magically jump up, but it's sort of like you're almost better get given a penalty away or something than what happened there.
Yeah, give away the six again. Hold him down, because once he couldn't get back into the position, not only could he not get into position where he ended up, he kind of blocked anyone else from being able. He blocked Terrell May being able to get across properly to stop Little on that try. So it is a tough one. I thought he was probably close to the bottom two of our forwards last night. It was a little bit of a disappointing game for him. I thought he was all right with the ball in his hand, but those defensive issues that have been there pretty much his entire first grade career now, he really needs to work on. He's at that time in his career where to go to the next level, he's really got to tighten up his defensive issues.
Nick, I think the left-hand side defence has been pretty strong this year. I think Adam Dewey's had a good year in defence. Last night, there were obviously some problems all over the field, but I think that edge has been more solid, probably helped by the fact that Jerome Luai's on that edge.
Luai's a freak. So
Yeah, great edge defender.
his defensive efforts are incredible. He's always there. If someone makes a break or if there's any second phase play, he's always covering. But just the way that he jams up, he often jams up under the ball, puts a lot of pressure on the ball runner when he's defending. He's really good. Adam Dewey, I think, has gone to another level. And I wonder if we've spoken about this the last couple of pods. I think this has got a lot to do with the players that we've brought in and their defensive attitude that they've brought with them. So I don't think, Luai's going to settle for any soft defenders, especially on his side of the field. So I really do think that's rubbing off on Dewey. But for me, that's always been Dewey's sort of weak part of his game, especially when playing centre with his defensive side of the game. But I love Dewey, watching Dewey in centres. What do you think, Gary? Are you happy with Dewey playing centre at the moment? Because especially with his goal kicking, I know he missed a couple of. He actually kicked the first two, which were from the sideline at opposite sides of the field. And then he missed a couple of easier ones, especially that one that hit the post, which was only from about 15 wide of the post. But his goal kicking has been pretty solid. I think his defence has probably been matching his attack at the moment.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with him playing in the centres at the moment. I think Luai really owns that left edge defensively. You watch his line speed and his talk in defence, it's really strong. So I think that's helped Adam a lot. But there's been multiple times this season where AD's had to make a decision about whether to come in or stay out. And the ones he's come in on, I think he's absolutely nailed those decisions. Even when a couple of times where we've had to force him out onto the wing, he made really good decisions in those roles as well. So I'm really impressed with how he's going this season. I think his defense has gone to another level. Did quite well on the try that he scored last night. A nice little kick in behind. So I think he's doing really well. Don't ever want to see him playing the halves again, but he's at the point where I'd be happy to throw him another contract. He's off contract at the end of the year.
How long, Gary? Give us the terms and the money you'd give AD to make it a competitive deal.
Look, I'd probably go to two, and probably around that $400,000 to $500,000 mark. I think he's doing a really good job of what he's doing now. I still worry about his knees moving forward, and I still worry a little bit. Like we've seen at times poor attitude in the past, so that worries me a little bit as well. But I'd be quite happy. Like if I heard tomorrow that the club had signed him for another 12 to 24 months, I wouldn't be disappointed at all.
We will get to the positives soon, guys, I promise. But I just want to talk a little bit about the bench, Nick, because I'm a little bit confused sometimes. Talon De Silva last night was restricted to the last, I think, 13 or 14 minutes.
Yeah.
It was good that Benji trusted him to go on in a close game, but I just don't know why we've gone away from that strategy we had at the start of the year, where he was coming on 10 minutes before half time and really providing some burst around the ruck.
I'm scratching my head as much as you are on that one. I don't understand why it took so long to bring Talon on. I'm with you. I think it's probably better to keep Appy a bit fresher rather than get him to pretty much a position where he spent after 65 minutes before you're taking him off. I think I kind of get it, right? Like the game's kind of tiring. It was hammering down rain by that point late in the second half. So you bring Talon on, he's got a lot of speed. That's going to make it very difficult for the defensive players to keep their feet and try and contain him. But I'd definitely be bringing Talon on in the middle of the game. So someone on one of the Facebook groups actually made a comment and said that they were watching the post-game footage from the dressing rooms and Talon didn't look too happy. But I don't know whether that was something else that happened aside from the game itself. But I don't know if he'd be happy playing 13 minutes a week. I know he's been playing a little bit more than that, but not a great deal more.
What's your take on De Silva, Gary? Because I think he's got to the point in his career where you can trust him with more minutes.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what yourself and Nick have just said. That I thought the strategy of bringing him on with about 10 minutes or 10 to 15 minutes to go in that first half was working really well. I thought it gave Appy a chance to have a break and reset before coming back on to finish out the game. So I'd like to see us go back to that because I think that's getting the most out of him. And I think gets the most out of Appy as well. The only thing I could possibly say, I don't know what our interchange numbers were like last night.
We had one up our sleeve, I think.
Yeah, so it doesn't make a huge amount of sense because the only reason you may do it is to limit one interchange in putting him on to finish out the game and taking Appy off at the end. It doesn't appear that that was really needed. So I would like to see that change that we were doing in the early rounds, where it's around 10 to 15 minutes to go in the first half, that Appy comes off and gets a little bit of a break. Because I think that's probably Talon's most dangerous time as well. He's incredibly quick around the ruck, and I'd like to see him get a few more, get that 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the first half because that's where he can have the greatest impact on a game.
Be interesting to know, Nick, and we probably will never find out how much of this is pre-planned. I'm sure there's a sort of set structure with your interchange, and how much is it you just go with the flow. Because I know, generally, obviously, your best players are your starting players, and if they're going well, you want them to play for as long as possible. You probably don't trust some of your bench players as much as your starting players. But Royce Hunt, 22 minutes. We're paying him what, $600,000 or $700,000 to play 22 minutes, 5 runs, 44 meters. Are you comfortable with that?
No, and I actually did notice on one of it must have been off one of the off the back of a Tigers try. Dragons kicked off, and the commentators actually made a point on TV saying that Royce Hunt was on the back fence ready to take it, and Gutherson purposely lined it up the opposite way and kicked it to the other corner. So maybe the Dragons took him out of it a little bit because I noticed that he didn't have as many barnstorming runs as we've seen him have over the last couple of months, but he definitely wasn't as effective. 22 minutes is very short. Yeah, I think, and Royce said it during the off season. He wanted to get Benji's trust and earn that trust too, and earn extra minutes on the field. So I think he would be expecting to play bigger minutes. Like you just said though, Benji would have a plan. He would have a plan before kickoff, but as the game goes on, that's got to be a little bit flexible. So it comes down to Benji's call. We're winning games, so I'm not going to crucify Benji too much on why he's putting Talon on in the 67th minute or why Royce is only getting 22 minutes. But yeah, I guess we'll just see what happens in the next few weeks if that changes again.
I'm not too concerned about Royce's minutes. He is a low minute, high impact forward, and he carries a bit of extra size because of that. And I don't mind him playing. I'd prefer it to be 25 to 30 minutes, but in that 20 minute to 20 to 30 minute range, I'm quite happy, especially when you've got a guy like Terrell May who's playing fairly big minutes. Pole's now playing fairly big minutes. For me, it gives us that point of difference around that 25-minute mark in the game. You can bring him on. He can hit the line hard like none of our other props can do. He can damage the defensive line, and we get a quick play the ball off the back of him. Now, we're only getting that for about 25 minutes a game, but if you extend that time out with him, you start to lose that impact. He starts to have to not hit that line so hard or not run off the back fence like you're seeing him run off because he's trying to conserve the energy to play bigger minutes. So I think we've bought him as a high impact middle forward that we haven't had in a long time. And we've got other guys who can soak up the rest of the minutes, and I'm quite happy for him to be playing that little bit less. I'd like it to be another 5 minutes or so more, but I wouldn't want to see him playing 35 minutes in a game. I don't want to see him playing 40 minutes in a game because you're going to lose that impact that he does have. And you're not going to get it in every game because when you're playing those minutes, the game can go away from you fairly quickly. If you're only on the field for 25 minutes, the ball can be going to the other side of the field, or you could do a couple of runs and they use you as a decoy, or you spend the time, your side spends most of the time you're on the field defending, and that drops your numbers right down. But he was really good against Cronulla. I think he ran for over 100 metres against Cronulla the week before. I think last night was just what you get with with one of those high impact middles that only play small minutes, that it probably wasn't as higher numbers as we saw the week before. And I'm quite happy with that because I think that's what we bought.
Similar numbers at Cronulla, Gary, but I don't know. Did he used to have two short stints or it was always one burst?
Quite often at Cronulla, it was only one short burst in that first half. I wouldn't mind seeing him get a little bit of a second
The only thing I was going to say is like it looks just a bit weird that Terrell May's going off for 3 minutes. Like, what's the point of that? Should he just play the 80 minutes, or can he go down to 70 minutes and maybe have Hunt in two 15-minute stints or something?
Yeah, look, I think that's definitely a possibility, but then you've got to also manage your other interchanges around that. So it really does come down to that plan, and I think sometimes they just can't manage to get him back on for a second stint because the plan with interchanges has changed through the game, or there's been an injury and they've had to take someone off and put someone else out there. So like you lose, like last night when Naden got injured, your centre's an 80-minute player a game. When you take him off and put Bird on, you're losing an interchange. You're losing a chance to get a forward off the field. So those sort of things impact your interchanges, and sometimes maybe they just can't get the time to get him back on. But I'm quite happy with what he's producing for us. I like last week he was one of the best on the field for us, and this week he was a little bit down. But I think you're going to get that with him.
Talk about the coach, Benji Marshall. I listened to his press conference. As usual, he sounded quite exhausted and relieved. I'm not sure, Nick, how thrilled he was with the performance, but he mentioned stuff like, I'm still grateful, obviously, to win, and that's the main thing, but we didn't live up to some of our standards tonight, and we can get so much better in so many areas. I assume defensively was the main thing, but there are other areas he's talking about there?
Quite possibly. I know Adam Dewey was interviewed before he went into the sheds too, and he said a very similar thing, that he didn't think the boys played as well as they could have, and I think they left a fair bit out there in terms of the way that they wanted to play. I know that game sort of ebbed and flowed a little bit. Dragons obviously scored early. We clawed back, got away to a lucky lead at halftime, and as we all saw, Dragons, gave us all a bit of a heart attack coming in towards late in that second half. But I don't know. I know Benji did make one comment that we've got a hell of a lot more improvement in us, and he didn't think that we played anywhere near what we're capable of doing yesterday. But like we've said, and like Gary said too, we've come off a 6-day turnaround. I know Cronulla had a 5-day turnaround. They're a little bit shorter. But everyone's a little bit different. Preparation's a little bit different, club to club. I'm not too worried, Eddie. I think we're pretty well poised. Actually, I don't want to jump ahead too quickly, but we've got Melbourne next week, and they're coming off a loss, pretty impressive loss to Canberra today. So that's going to be interesting because I was honestly thinking we're not much of a chance for next week, but we'll see what the conditions are like down in Melbourne next week, but we might be able to give them a shake.
I know Benji wasn't too impressed in his press conference, and I'm sure he wasn't too impressed with the players, and nor should he be as a coach. But I was really happy with that win last night. Not so much last night after the game, but when I woke up this morning, I thought back over the game, and it wasn't a game where we defended great, but I'm willing to give us a little bit of a chance on that defensive side of things because I think our defense has been quite good this season. But what was really pleasing for me, and it goes back to my one word, is I think that attack looked probably the less clunky it's looked all season. We put on some nice shape. Our red zone attack was probably the best I've seen it in 5, 6, 7 years. I thought Luai especially, I think we started to learn how he's going to play in our structure. And for me, last night was the first time I've been convinced that Luai can be, like I always thought he could develop into a halfback, but I saw halfback play from him last night. As I said earlier, every single try we scored last night, outside the Buller one where he just picked up a loose ball and ran, came with Luai's hands involved in it. And a lot of it was just straightening the attack, engaging the defensive line, and holding up those defenders from sliding across onto Galvin and onto Buller for Taruva's try. He was creating space like a really good halfback does for your outside men. And for me, he didn't. Well, he still had a really nice kick through for Sam Fainu's try. But for me, and he had a couple of really nice darting runs. But for me, he wasn't the flashy player. He was the halfback last night. And I think that's what we brought him over to be. And that side of it made me really excited for what it's going to look like in a month's time. Because I think he's really starting to develop into that halfback role. And like a week ago, I was thinking, well, we need to go out and sign Reynolds to get him to play halfback next season. What I saw last night gives me a lot of pause on that because I think Loy can play that halfback role after what I saw last night. Really impressed.
Like a clear shift last night, Nick, and I said it early in the game. I thought, geez, he looks sharp tonight, Luai. A little bit more north-south with his running game. There was one time he went through on the last, and if he saw Buller on the inside, it would have been a try under the post. But I think he did nearly all the general play kicking. Galvin was probably shifted onto an edge more. And I think that structure, from what I saw last night, like Gary said, that was by far the best we'd looked in attack all year.
100%. I remember sitting next to Gary round one against Newcastle at Campbelltown, and we were very, very flat in attack, and everything was very lateral. And I said to Gary, what the hell? Like, there is no shape. How do we fix this? And Gary, you said, I don't think we can. This is obviously what they've worked on, and this is what we're getting. But on TV, when I watched that game against the Dragons, they showed, leading up to one of our tries, they showed some of the pre-play, a couple of sets before from the drone that flies over with the cables from behind the attacking play. And the shape that we were running, we weren't running just, a couple attackers, up front and a couple behind. We were running sort of 3 or 4 layers back. So there was a lot of options, and Buller was out the back. And a couple of times we had some second phase play twice. We would go in behind the lead runner and then in behind a second time back to Buller. So there's a lot of decoy going on. There's a lot of shape. There's obviously a lot of set plays that the boys are working on, and it's all coming off Luai. I really do believe that this is sort of that Penrith sort of flavour that's been inserted into the West Tigers this year. It's starting to look good. Luai is hitting his straps. He is really dictating the attack now, and it's really good to see. Like Lockie's still doing his thing, but he's I don't think he's popping up all over the field as much as he has been the last few weeks.
Yeah, the big difference between the first couple of rounds and what we saw last night for me. Now, Buller makes a huge difference. Buller wasn't in that round one game, Nick, and I think a lot of our shape comes off Buller sweeping around the back. But the big difference for me is those opening games, Luai was getting the ball and pretty much straight away passing to Galvin and letting Galvin kind of do everything with the ball in hand. What we were seeing last night is Luai was straightening and going right into the line where he was just about to receive contact as he was passing the ball out. And that's the big change. He's engaging that defensive line, which holds those defenders from sliding straight out onto Galvin and out onto the outside man. Yeah. And like he's not throwing the money ball last night. He's not throwing the last pass. In fact, Safar threw one of them. Sam Fainu threw another one that came off the kick that Dewey caught. And Galvin threw the last pass for the first try we scored. So he wasn't throwing the last pass on those tries. But for me, he was throwing the pass that gave the space for the guys outside him to create that. And Buller threw the one that Taruva scored in the corner. It was actually Luai straightened it up. He gave it out to Buller, who again straightened up a little bit more, and then hit Seyfarth, who for some reason had ended up out in the centres and threw a really nice ball for Taruva to score. So for me, it's that extra space and that ability that he's now developing for us to hold up that defensive line from sliding out, which gives the ball players outside him a chance to actually take advantage of that. And I'm really keen for him to continue along that line because that wasn't there at the start of the season. And that really is the difference between him being a halfback or being a 6 trying to play halfback. If he can really straighten and bite into those defensive lines and hold those defenders off the outside men, then he's playing a perfect halfback role.
Do you feel like maybe Jerome's coming out of his shell a little bit the last couple of weeks since the Galvin contract saga has come out. I wonder if he's putting Lockie back in his place a little bit.
For me, I think I might have said it in the chat that we have, is last night he put his stamp on the team, that it is his team now, that he is that chief playmaker. And Galvin still had some really good moments, but those really good moments he had came off the space that Luai had created for him. And I think his voice, he's had that voice ownership of the team and that kind of inspirational ownership of the team. Last night he took the on-field ownership of the general play, and that for me is the most exciting thing I saw last night. I'm really happy with that win last night, despite what were some glaring problems, and I understand why Benji would be upset at the players, and I understand why he'd go in there and give them a hard time. But I saw a lot last night that made me really, really happy about the direction we're going and the direction our players are going and the direction our chief players are going. We do a Player of the Year award, and Luai's barely rated a vote up until last night. So I think a lot of people saw it last night because he's going very well in the voting for last night's man of the match. So
Clearly best on the field last night for you, Gary.
clearly best on the field for me last night. There's some other guys who had really strong games who I hope we do mention later. Even a guy who I thought I was really worried about playing last night. But yeah, Luai was clearly the best on the field. With Buller not that far behind him, I thought Buller was excellent last night as well. He's having a great season.
Just last one on Luai for me is just he's just one of the true alphas of the game. Like he can just pull it off. He's so real. I even liked his quotes today. I saw some quotes about, I think they were talking about Galvin. He said we don't have to be best mates, or he said not everyone has to be best mates in football teams. So he might not like Galvin personally, but he's a pro. Like on the field, I saw the first try and he was jumping all over Galvin or the other way around. So even if they don't talk to each other off the field, I couldn't care less because Luai's such a pro that he's going to say, let's pick the best team and let's be business partners. Let's get in there and win games. So, Nick, I had Stafford Toa as my enigma at the start of the year. I might have to change it to Charlie Staines because this guy disappeared off the face of the earth for 3 months. Club told us, retrospectively, he had a bit of a hammy, was it?
Yeah, I think that was it.
Some sort of injury. I thought he had just disappeared and, was maybe going to go somewhere else mid-season. Gets the late call-up. Wasn't named, I don't think, in the 22 during the week. And then I think Fatape had to go to a funeral, so must have got some dispensation to bring him in after the injury to Toa. But if Luai was the best on the field, I think he was the second best for us, Charlie Staines. He was outstanding.
He was very good. And I know some people on this pod were not happy that he was in the team, Gary. But no, I thought he slotted in really well, Charlie. It was just another piece of the Penrith puzzle back together, wasn't it? But he finished really well. And I just wonder whether Charlie's just been missing that little bit of quality around him, like a lot of our original players over the last few years. You play in a weaker side, you don't stand out as much. But he was known as a finisher before he came to West Tigers. He came to West Tigers and I guess struggled to find a lot of holes and struggled to show us what that, Forbes Ferrari speed is like. I know he didn't get into the clear too much, from a substantial distance out to show us that pace that he's got, but he finished some of those plays really well. So it was really good to see him score a couple of tries last night. I really enjoyed seeing that. I don't know if he'll be able to hold that place on the wing. I still think there's obviously a couple, including Jarrell Skelton, who would be picked in front of him, but it's not a bad fallback option, is it?
Yeah, I was really worried about him when he was named for the week. My biggest concern was his lack of yardage coming out of our own end. Naden last week when he played on the wing, he still got 150, 160 odd meters coming out of our own end. That's really important for the football we're playing. That's why we've got guys like Taruva. That's why we've got Skelton. Charlie Staines is a different sort of winger to those guys. And his biggest problems, you're right, Nick, in the past have been he is a finisher. He's a guy that you give a little bit of space to, and he uses his speed to get to the corner. Now, we haven't had the players that give him a little bit of space, so that side of his game's been wasted. Last night, we were able to give him a little bit of space, and he finished off that try he scored in the corner really, really well. But the most pleasing thing for me last night is he ran for around 150 metres. So he got that yardage coming out of his own. I thought he worked really hard on it. And what you want with Charlie Staines is you want him to be that second kind of runner. So one of the other wingers takes it up, hits the line fairly hard, gets a few metres, gets a decently quick play the ball, then he can use his speed to get downfield a little bit. And he did that fairly well last night. So I was really happy with the game that he played last night. Yeah, for me going into it was his lack of meters coming out of our own end, but he did a really good job of that last night.
But he's clearly well respected within the playing group too, because post game there were a lot of social media posts from people like Jerome and I don't know if Terrell did, but a few of the boys put up some photos and pointed, hashtag Ferrari and that sort of thing, put little, cartoons of Ferraris and Charlie Staines in them. So, yeah, he's obviously well received back in the team. Yeah, just really good to see him back on the field.
I think they might have had a big night, the boys, Nick. I saw a few posts at 3 a.m. in the morning from Luai with Appy with some sun. That photo was actually, or video was from a preseason thing.
Preseason, yeah.
But I'm sure there was a bit of a celebration going on last night.
Yeah, I think Benji's the sort of guy that would have let them let their hair down a little bit too. So you're up in Brisbane, Magic Round, all the teams are there. Why not? It's a week till the next game. You might as well just have a few beers and enjoy it. So good on him.
Gary, your man Buller, 265 metres, probably a little bit inflated given 105
metre.
But it sounds good, doesn't it, for you, Gary? 265 metres, but he's just a different player this year. I've got to give him all the credit in the world. I don't know whether the guys coming in have just elevated him or whether he's gone to another level with his training or his mentality, but he's more on the ball. And like you said, that try was, I had to watch that 3 or 4 times in replay and go, he was jogging away from Terrell Sloan. Like that was an effortless.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've credited Sloan in a conversation you and I have had in the past as an example of why Buller's not quick enough. So it was really pleasing to see him run. I really enjoyed seeing him run away with that try last night. But it's not just that side of his game. It really is his ability to chime into that back line. I really like, and I think I said it last week, when we get Luai and Galvin on one side of the field and we give Buller some space out on that right-hand side to create himself, I think he does a really good job of that. Threw a really nice pass for the Taruva try last night. Really safe under the high ball. Like, at this point in time, and I know you're going to mock at this, Eddie, but I wouldn't swap him for anyone in the game. I'm really happy with how he's playing and how he's developing. I think he fits into our team culture really well. And I couldn't be happier to see how he's playing because I think there's a really strong footballer there. Last week we saw him sniffing around the middle a little bit more than we did last night. I want to see him work on that into his game a little bit more. But I'm very, very happy with how he's going. Few issues in the last line of defence with his trying to clean up some try scoring opportunities. But outside of that, he's having a great season.
I think Buller has gone to a new level, Eddie. I think both of the points that you said earlier are both correct. I think he has gone to a new level because of the players around him, and I think he's just, with that environment surrounding him, it's just taken him easily to that next place. But it's funny when you said it looked like he was jogging away from Sloan. Tyrell Sloan, he's quick. Like I've seen him in space for the Dragons over the last few weeks. I don't watch him overly closely, but he's one player that when he gets into space, he looks like he's motoring. He's got a really long gait. He looks like a real natural runner, but Buller looks so comfortable, and Sloan was doing the best to catch up to Buller, and Buller was just very slowly pulling away. But yeah, he's quick, and a few of our players have said recently that Buller is the quickest in the team, and I think he's probably got more in the tank. That's the scary part. I'd love to see him in space on the dry track.
The big thing for me when we look at his season last year is quite often a guy will come into the game and no one really knows anything about him. They've never really seen him play before. There's not a lot of video on him. And he'll have a breakout season. And then as teams get a bit more footage and they learn a little bit more about you, you end up on their tip sheet and they know your kind of tendencies in a game and they plan for those. And that second year can be a lot harder. The really good players hit that point and then they adapt their game again. And for me, that's what taking his game to the next level is. It's not about last year he was down on form. He was down on form because teams knew him better. He's taking his game to another level, so he's able to still create and still be dangerous. For me, out on the field, bar no one this year, he's been the most dangerous player on the field, the most likely to bust through and create a line break, the most likely to go through a gap by himself and run 50 metres to score. For me, he is our most dangerous attacking weapon on the field at the moment. And it's really pleasing to see.
And his talk has also stepped up as well this season, Gary. I noticed watching one of the replays, or it might have been after a try, they were walking back to halfway for the kickoff. But Luai, obviously, Buller was sitting back a little bit in his fullback position, but Luai was barking orders at him. And Buller was talking back. So there's a lot of communication between Luai and Buller as well. I think that's that part of his game, Buller, which is extremely important as a fullback. He's got to bark directions from the back. I think that's gone to another level too. So, yeah, I think the trajectory is going to be extremely high for Buller over the next few years. I think he could be a very, very, very elite fullback in the next 5 years.
That's what Gary was saying a couple of years ago. Could he be an elite fullback? I laughed at it. I think I haven't run the numbers on every club's fullback, Gary, but I think at the moment he'd be a top 8 fullback in the NRL. Would that be fair? Would that be underselling him?
I think it's definitely fair. As I said, I wouldn't, at his age and how he's performing, I wouldn't be swapping him for anyone right now. I think Tedesco's having a fantastic season, but I don't want Tedesco for 1 year. I want Buller for the next 5 to 10 years. So for me, yeah, I'm not really looking at upgrading in that spot. I'm extremely happy with how he's performing.
Nick, I'm going to make a big call here. This guy might already be my favourite Tiger player of all time. You know, and I had
Stefano?
Probably my favourite player all time was probably Robbie Farah. But this Taruva, I just love this guy. I don't know if you've seen his interview after the game.
Yeah.
But it was he said it was his debut on Fox. He never gets interviewed after the game. And he just took the piss out of all of them. Cronk, Meninga, whoever else was up there.
Yep, he loves it.
Thought this guy is just, you need someone like that in your team who's just brash, but it wouldn't mean a thing if he didn't bring it on the field. And from all the guys I've listened to talking about around the environment this year and how it's different, they don't just mention Jerome alone. They mention this guy alongside of him. And I know last night was just one of his okay games. He was probably a 7 or 8 out of 10. But even that finish he had, it was wet out there. He got so low to the ground. He just nails those finishes every time, and his yardage carry. And I just think the energy he brings around the group is it's an intangible you can't measure.
100%. That try that you just mentioned, where he got down really low, that was a natural instinct, because if he stayed up higher, he could have got hit in the ribs, and there's a potential that he might have been pushed over, the touching goal line. But he was witty enough, 5 meters out to get down low and dive low, knowing that he'd slide across the try line. That was a brilliant finish. But he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he? Like, his personality's so out there. And like you were just talking about that post-game interview, he's like a jack in the box every time. And obviously he couldn't see who he was talking to. He was just listening to the voices come across on the headphones. But each time they threw him to a new interview, whether it was Mal Meninga or Cooper Cronk, he got so excited. He's like a little kid in a candy shop. Oh, Cooper, you got to follow me back on Insta, brah, and all this sort of thing. But
that was Sean Johnson.
Hilarious.
That one. Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, Sean Johnson. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. But and he's like that in Terrell's vlogs too. When Terrell does the vlogs from Concord,
he takes over it all the time.
He does. Yeah, he grabs the mic and the camera and he walks around. Yeah, he's a real energy, and that's going to lift everyone. Behind the scenes. And Adam Dewey's talked about this, how the standard of training has changed this year since the new boys have come in, and it's going to transfer onto the field, and it's obviously transferring in wins too. So, yeah, I'm loving Taruva. I hope we can lock him up, for quite a long time. How long's his contract?
I hope it's 10
Gary
years,
got any clues?
Probably 3, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-year contract.
Longer would be nice.
Big thing for me is, I interviewed Brent Naden at one of our ambush events, and he spoke about Taruva. He said he's the most annoying guy because that bubbly, out there personality is like that at 6 a.m. and it's like that at midnight. He said he just doesn't turn off. He's like that all the time. And as you said, every team needs a guy like that. And
Yeah.
the leadership he's brought. I keep thinking back to the Thrive or Survive documentary and that conversation Benji had about him, about the voice and how people look up to him. I don't think he really realized that until that conversation, the power he can have over this team. And I think he's showing it time and time again. I thought he let himself down with a little bit of ill discipline in, was it the Parramatta game? The Parramatta game. But
Yeah.
outside of that, I don't think he's put a foot wrong at our club. And on the field, you give him a little bit of space and he makes the most of it and finishes those tries. He is one of the best try scorers I've seen through contact. So when you've got that cover defense coming across, I don't think we've given him an opportunity that he's missed this year. So I think, is it 9 or 10 tries now he's up to for the season? Like we talk about guys like Takiri and Taniela who had seasons where they scored 20, 21 tries. Taruva's on that pace to pick up 20 plus tries this season. He is having a fantastic season, and I'm so glad that we've got him. It was funny when we signed him. It was kind of like people were happy about the signing, but like you're bringing a winger across. What is a winger going to really add to your team? He's shown what a winger can add to our team. He has been absolutely fantastic, and outside Terrell May has probably been the best out of our new recruits so far this season.
I think I worked out why he's my favourite player, Nick, because he likes to wind people up. Big hello
Yeah,
to everyone out there.
you're not like that, are you,
Yeah.
Ed?
No.
No.
But even his Instagram post, Gary, I sort of was half critical, but then I thought, you know what? He probably said that to Galvin's face as well.
Yeah, right.
He doesn't
100%
care.
right. No, he probably did. And look, you have a look, the relationship between the players and the team seems to be functioning okay. So I don't really care about that anymore. So, um, yeah, yeah, he does seem to be winding most people up. So you're probably right.
Joel's one word, Nick, was Terrell Davis May. And he loves saying that himself, Terrell. He's such a character. I really warmed to him. And probably I wouldn't warm to him if he wasn't performing on the field, I'll be honest. But, his vlogs are just an absolute laugh every week. I think I saw him with the big vlogging camera when they were singing the song last night. So look out again. But again, I thought probably last night was one of his poorer games, but it was still a 7.5 or 8 out of 10.
He's just a quality player. He's got Origin written all over him. I think he's made it a point to prove everyone wrong. I'm sure he's still thinking about Trent Robinson. Really wants to show the Roosters up. Why did you let me go? Look what I can do. So, yeah, he's a freak. 76 minutes or something yesterday? But why did he play 76 and not 80? Maybe Benji's bringing him off for a 4-minute rest at the end just to save him for next week. Which is a bit tongue in cheek saying that, but yeah, he's a freak and his vlogs are fantastic. He's such a character. He's very funny. I even watched a video of him eating a chicken burger the other week. It was
Yeah, it went
I
for
don't know
about
why
20
it did-
minutes eating the burger,
it did
but
it.
he
Yeah.
manages to speak almost in another language. It's that sort of slang you sort of get at high school. I'm sort of 20 years past that now, Gary, but it's very entertaining watching him and Taruva and Luai and a few others. If you were Seyfarth or someone, you're thinking, what on earth are these guys talking about?
Yeah, mate, it really is. I spent a lot of time teaching in Mount Druitt, and it really is that Mount Druitt side of him coming out. And when I guess going over to the eastern suburbs and being at the Roosters, it probably didn't gel that well over there. But I think it fits in perfectly for the culture that we want to have and the culture that we're developing. So for me, it's a huge plus. But like you say, last night was probably his worst game for the club, and it probably was. But it was still 150 odd meters, and there were some runs he had in that second half that really provided some impact. So as I said, I've been saying all year, I think he develops into a game, he builds into the game, and the longer the game goes, he kind of gets better. Especially, I think around that probably 10 to 15 minute mark in the second half is when he's at his best football. Uh, but mate, what a fantastic season! If that's the worst game we're going to get out of him this season, then I'm incredibly happy.
What about the offloads? He's such a hard guy to bring down. Like he stands in tackles so often and he offloads at will. And the commentators made a point of saying that actually during the game that he just offloads at will. He just, he's always got an arm out. Even if you think he's wrapped up, he'll get an arm out and pass it to someone who's just standing at the back.
It was 8 offloads last week, Nick, in that game against Cronulla.
Yeah.
I think the most in a game is like 10, and he got 8 last week. You think there's some like we would have went 3 months last year without the whole team producing 8 offloads. So the second phase that he generates from those offloads is really critical. But that's not the end of his passing game either. Like at times he was going to line like a halfback last night, and at some point this season he'll put a ball on before the line and put someone over for a try because he has that ball skill as well. So really, really happy with how he's playing. And what I find with him is early in the games when he does lack that little bit of impact and he gets knocked back a little bit easier. What he does during those times is he'll actually feed the ball on, and he'll play that link role a little bit more. So I think that's like he's just a smart footballer. He's a footballer with a big motor. He's a footballer that can ball play. I think he is I think I said it last week as well. I think he's the best signing in the NRL this season.
Make your prediction, Gary. I reckon he might get across for 5+ tries this year. I've seen a few moves close to the line where he's getting
he was close last
They're
night.
using him well.
Yeah.
A little bit of deception around the goal line. He's nearly got over the last couple of games. But, I mean, speaking of front rowers, Nick, I mean, what a pathetic performance by Stefano tonight in Melbourne or in Magic Round, wherever they were. I mean, it's not funny, really. Bellamy would be seething, giving away 2 penalties with the ball, costing your team the match. I would, quite happily concede this game against Melbourne if someone just went out and just went at him because he is easily baited. And that was the case when he was with the Tigers and teams went after him early because he was probably our only named front rower. But, I mean, he was pathetic tonight for Melbourne.
I didn't watch all the game tonight. I watched the ends.
I watched all of it.
Yeah, so I caught a fair bit of the second half, but that penalty he gave away where he got sin bins, was that during regular time? Or was that golden? That was golden point.
I think there were 2 in the ball.
That was on about the second tackle right in front of the posts. All he had to do was play the ball, and they were probably going to go for a field goal either that play or the one after, and they win the game. But that was an absolute brain fade. I cannot believe what he did. I'm just glad that he did it in a Melbourne jumper and not a Tigers jumper. What a deal we've got to end up with. And we've spoken about that, to end up with Terrell over Stefano. I was a bit concerned losing Stefano, but mate, we've struck gold there.
It's not only that, Nick. We offered Stefano 800,000 a year.
Yeah,
we got Terrell for 600. So a $200,000
Gary, I know,
a much better player.
On a serious note, like Melbourne probably win next week, and whatever he can have a one up on us, but I don't think he's improved this year. Looks like the same football, playing 40, 45 minutes a game.
Yeah, and look, he really went downhill last year, especially after he signed. I thought there was a lack of effort, but that doesn't seem to be any better at Melbourne this year. So it's a really bizarre one. Declan will be disappointed because Declan predicted great things for him once he went to Melbourne.
He said first pick for Origin and this.
Yeah,
and
it sounds like Declan's wrong again, Eddie.
I won't reel off the list of names tonight, but there's a couple that come to mind. Big picture, Nick. I think we've gone through all the players I wanted to mention. Any other boys you want to give a shout out to, Gary or Nick? I thought Alex Twal's having a really underrated, excellent season, boys.
Mate, he has been fantastic this year. I don't overly like him in that lock role, but his ability to time his runs off Appy, I think he's running a lot harder this year. He's got footwork at the line. His game has really gone to another level this year. I'm really happy with how he's performing. And I'd like to get him out of that kind of 13 role and get him into our prop rotation. But yeah, that's no fault on how he's playing. I just want a different style lock. But he's having a fantastic season. And I was ready to write him off last year, so really happy to see that.
I think our boys from last year have all gone up a notch. Twally's one. Sione Fainu, he's gone up a notch. Like last year for me, he played like a reserve grader that when you called him into first grade, he'd do a job, but that was about it. But he looks like an NRL player to me now. I think he's gone up. His footwork as well. I didn't know he had footwork at the line, but he's got footwork. I didn't know Twally had footwork. I think he's just added that in this season. But yeah, for me, those two have gone up. The only one that I'd probably single out, I don't think he's gone to another level like the rest of the boys, is probably Alex Seyfarth. And I'm a bit sad to say that because I've been a big Seyfarth fan for a while. But yeah, I just think he's probably the only one that's not on an upward trajectory.
I still think he is, Nick. But he disqualifies that with, that drop ball. I was ready to throw everything I owned out the window when he did that because I just thought, you just cannot do that. And
Yep,
I don't know where he's looking or what, but it was just such a loose carry at that time of the game. But Gary, I think he still is improving. It might be slow or different areas of his game, but he can run a line as a back rower. I know he's not the sort of prototype back rower, but I think he's holding his own.
I think that's the greatest area of need for upgrade in our squad. I think most people know what my opinion is on Alex, and it's.
Did you think he was poor last night outside of that error at the end?
I wouldn't say he was poor, but I don't think we get enough impact from him. When coming out of our own end, quite often, and where you especially see it, I think, is off a kickoff. So you'll have someone like Royce Hunt do a really strong charge back, get a decent play of the ball, then Alex will take that second run, hit the line, and get bent straight backwards. For me, that's probably the biggest issue: is he can't win the contact in defence or in attack. And for me, that's the main issue I kind of have with him. I do agree he's ran some really nice lines out there on an edge, and that part of his game has improved greatly. There's just his inability to win the collision is probably the thing that's holding him back, in my opinion.
Big picture, Nick. 9 rounds in, 5-4. I think maybe under Cleary we were 5-4. I think we won 5 of our first 6, but it's been at least 6 years since we've been 9 rounds in and in the top 8. I don't want to ask where we finished because so long to go, but
are we still coming last, Eddie? I'll ask you.
I didn't predict we'd come last. I predicted we'd go to 14.
You said we'd be fighting for that wooden spoon a couple of times.
Look, they shouldn't, but I'm just saying, I think this year there's not going to be a side with 5 or 6 wins. Gold Coast may prove me wrong. I saw Dave Taylor, what's his name? Dave Fafita, ran for about 20 metres to Ipswich today, so things are not going well.
Dave Taylor, Mark II.
Des Hasler. So that they might be the team that, sinks to the bottom, but I just think it's such a long season, this NRL, and there's not going to be a hair between 7th and 14th or 15th or 16th this year.
Especially when you got Parramatta and Penrith down there.
That's the thing. I look at Parramatta and I watched their last 2 games and I think they could win 10 games with Mitchell Moses. And even Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle aren't great, but you look at their roster, they've got some bloody good players. And they've got the Gold Coast this Friday. So it's a very tight competition, boys, but I'm going to stick with my prediction of a 14th, which would make me, quite happy, Gary.
I'm sure it would. So what was your question before I interrupted?
I can't remember what my question was. I've actually got a stat I'd like Yachty to look into. If you're listening, Yachty, I'd like you to run the numbers on the last 25 years on Melbourne coming off a loss going into a home game. What's their record? I'm going to guess it 40-0 or something like that.
So you're just making another excuse to say that we cannot win this weekend. Is that what it is?
I will put a little disqualifier there, whatever the word is, that without Harry Grant, they are not the same side. They are beatable without Harry Grant. If he's back next week, all bets are off.
So you're actually sending a team down there to play this weekend and just not forfeiting Eddie?
They don't have Harry Grant, and I saw Jerome Hughes holding his shoulder. We have a puncher's chance there. If those two are back, them coming off a loss, I'd rather just have the week off, Nick, and get ready for the big game against South at Campbelltown. That's a huge game for us.
That will be a big game, and we got the bye after that, so we got a couple of big weeks coming up. I think we are a chance of being competitive next week, so I'm not going to write us off.
Two-horse race, mate. We're
That
always a
sounds
chance.
very confident, doesn't it, Gary? We're a chance of being competitive. What does that mean? We're going to lose by 18 or 32? Or didn't sound very confident, Nick.
Look,
He doesn't even
I
know
said
what it means, Eddie.
like I said earlier in the pod, the Raiders came out and beat Melbourne, so there's no reason why we can't beat Melbourne next week. I'd like to know when Melbourne lost back-to-back games last as well. It must be quite a while, but there's no reason why we can't beat them. There's a bit of belief going on with the squad at the moment, and we've got nothing to lose. Next week is a game that we're not expected to win, so all that works in our favour. And
No pressure next week.
That's a good point. We do
Yep.
often match up quite well against Melbourne, ironically, for over the years.
Correct, and Stephanie Utai Kamanu is it's a big game.
Well, he might be playing for North Sydney Bears or whatever their feeder side is after.
No, I want him in the
tonight.
team. I want him looking silly next week.
All right, boys. I think that's a wrap for the Sunday night pod. I think Joel's in the hosting chair Wednesday. I've been given the week off, which is excellent, Gary. Week off leading into a bye and then South.
One thing I do want to address before we go is Danny Weidler today gave Steve a little bit of a mention in his article. I hope you listen to this, Danny, because Steve took the courtesy to actually give you an opportunity to give your side of the story. You didn't give him that opportunity. You just called him a troll in your article today, which I think was totally out of line, especially after he gave you the opportunity to come on here and give your point of view. Fair enough, you didn't want to come on and give your point of view, but I think the way you dealt with it showed that what Steve had to say got into your head and you couldn't let it go. And to give a little bit of a context to it, Steve and I contacted a few people 2 weeks ago now, Aaron Woods, Brent Reed, and Danny Weidler, who we thought were pushing a little bit of an agenda for Isaac Moses. I will say Aaron Woods at least had the decency to get back to us, and I had quite a good chat to Aaron Woods about the situation. Brent Reed just totally ignored Steve's email to him, but Danny to not get back to him and then have a little bit of a crack at a FanRen podcast in your article, I think is pretty low. And I'm going to offer it again. You have every chance to come on here and have your say about me thinking that your article today, calling a fan a troll who invited you onto a fan-based podcast. You can come on here and give your opinion, but my opinion is you need to do better than that.
I thought it was quite funny, Nick, because, I mean, like, these guys, and I understand it's their job to dig for dirt and find stuff, and they have to write critical articles and whatnot, but it's how brittle they are. If anyone, Steve wrote an email, he didn't call him any name under the sun, he didn't swear at him. But like, and then to use it, and thanks for the free publicity, Danny, in the Sunday paper, but to use it on his column just shows that these guys are, like, they dish it out, but if you do read his column, he's either taking pot shots at Braithen Astor or James Hooper, the rival media, or now he's taking pot shots at rival podcast fan groups. And I think this is what you do for a living, man, is dish out stuff. So you can't take a little bit back. It's like, really?
Yeah, it was really strange the way that he used that Steve's email, in his article, because he quoted Steve's email word for word, led into that by calling him, or calling him, using trolling activity or trolling behaviour. Oh, yeah, I don't think he said he was a troll, but he said, West Tigers fans are trolling, and here's an email from Steve Stratton. But it was very, very odd. But yeah, Danny Weidler, if you're listening, come on the pod, mate. I'll have to have a chat, a very friendly chat, constructive chat. We're just here to, to do the right thing. We're not having digs at anyone. You'd be very welcome, mate. So give us a call. We'll get you on.
Well, I don't think he will come on, Danny Weidler.
There's no chance, mate.
No chance.
No.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we're not having digs at anyone. Well, I am.
Victory Sunday, boys. It's always good when you get the victory on Saturday night. You can enjoy your Sunday, and I hope the listeners out there can enjoy podcasts. And who knows, Gary? Stranger things have happened. We could knock off Melbourne. If we knock off Melbourne, I may even change one of our predictions for the year.
That would be fantastic. My brother would be very happy. He wasn't happy with your prediction that we're no chance.
All right, boys. Thank you for tonight. We'll see, hopefully, some of you on the midweek pod.
Thanks
Thanks,
Eddie.
fellas.
Thanks, Nick.